Afternoon class. My name is Sergeant Askew. Today I will be conducting a brief on interpersonal communication. Today's briefing is classified as unclassified. On today's agenda, we'll be going over verbal communication, nonverbal communication. I will be breaking down the different components of communication, the benefit of interpersonal communication. We'll conclude it, and we'll end it off with questions if you guys have any. So, to start off, what is interpersonal communication? Does anybody know? Okay. Interpersonal communication is to trade ideas, feelings, emotions, and thoughts to one another. This form of communication is utilized to transmit and receive data. This communication can be exchanged verbally or non-verbally, like discussed earlier. As you can see by this chart, this big portion right here represents what you see or feel, and this is 55% of the message. The blue represents what you hear, and that is 38% of the message. And the red right here is the words, which is 7% of the message. In what you see or what you feel, it represents the facial expression, dress and grooming, posture, eye contact, touches, and gestures. What you hear is represented as the tone of your voice, vocal clarity, and verbal expressiveness, and of course words. Nonverbal communication allows for non-deliberate methods of communications, and this form of communication transmits messages from one individual to another. A form of nonverbal communication is shown by the use of social media. Because of today's economy, innovative technology, people talk more online than they do in person. And this is normal now. Our behaviors are major characteristics in communication. Interpersonal communication may be either synchronous or asynchronous. Does anybody know what these terms mean? Okay. Well, asynchronous communication means the conversation doesn't take place in real time. And synchronous communication is the interaction in real time. And this means the receiver responds as soon as they receive the message from the sender. Interpersonal communication is about how something is stated, body dialect, used, and the facial expressions, like mentioned before. This form of communication can be enhanced by training, understanding, and bringing awareness and recognizing different viewpoints. Concerning the breakdown of interpersonal communication, there are specific components implicated that deal with interpersonal communication, and they are listed on the screen. We have communicators, the message, noise, feedback, context, and channel. And we will start with communicators. Communicators are described as the sender and the receiver. There should be a minimum of two entities, one delivering the conversation and another who obtains the message. The next is message. The message derives from concepts expressed via dialogue, facial expressions, body language, and other oral or unspoken words. Next is noise. This is described as interruption produced in conversation at the same time that the message is sent. Noise also produces discrepancies in what is collected from what was delivered. Feedback. This is described as the reply of the receiver. It allows the sender to recognize how precise the message was understood and how it was construed. Next is context. This deals with how a message is understood. And lastly, channel. Channel is described as the method in which communication occurs. And it is also the instrument that message is broadcast from. So here's a model. It's called the transactional model of communication. It's a conception of the components present in an interpersonal interaction and how people participate together in the act of communicating. And all of the components that were listed on the screen earlier and that I spoke about are all in cohesion at the same time. We have two individuals speaking, which are both the communicators, the noise, which are the discrepancies, the messages being sent across, and they're sent by the channel. The development of communication is shaped by the framework of information. The information formed is acknowledged by various conditions, emotional states, and beliefs of persons involved in communication. The benefit of interpersonal communication. So, interpersonal communication allows for prevention of disputes. The incorrect usage of certain terms is a hindrance to communication efficiency. Every person requires sufficient vocabulary, a command of basic punctuation and grammar, and expertise in written oral messages to avoid miscommunication. Terms, or otherwise words, are known to influence, and they apply the right terms, or applying the right terms can benefit in obtaining individuals' thoughts and ideas appropriately. Successful communication includes speaking and listening, not just speaking. Being that the military is so diverse, it is crucial to have appropriate communication skills to know how to handle unfamiliar and various cultures. It is important to acknowledge numerous perspectives and abstain from impairing others by speaking, like mentioned before. For successful interpersonal communication, individuals must abstain from individual views and abstain from utilizing terms with multiple connotations. And this is because they can be interpreted in different ways, which affects the efficiency of communication. Military personnel are directed to be direct in instructing and stay on subject. Usually this is in discussions. Being accurately understood in the military is vital. Efficiency of dialect interrupts the communication process of individuals expressing orders, thoughts, and ideas. Interpersonal communication consists of verbal and nonverbal approaches. Interpersonal communication also secures people's thoughts and ideas. And this is used by communicators, messages, noise, feedback, contacts, and channels. And lastly, the benefit, it allows for prevention of disputes. Putting information out to personnel is a part of everyday life as a leader in the military.
No.
Leaders are required to inform soldiers to perform their duties. Effective communication is essential for work to be done efficiently. And stated in TC 7-22.7, page 4-5, there are three attributes of leading. One being intellect. Intellect is having mental agility, sound judgment, motivation, impersonal tact, and expertise. Impersonal tactics are important for leaders to use effective communication skills for strategic purposes. Distractions, inadequate dialect, and wrong choice of terms all get in the way of effective communication. Are there any questions?
I have a question. What are characteristics of interpersonal communication?
Okay, there are a couple. We have a continuous process, which is meaning it's ongoing, a dynamic process, consequential, which is communication matters for the well-being, irreversible, and imperfect, which is symbols, signs, and words to try to express things beyond comprehension.
Is there a model of human communication?
Yes, there are three models of human communication, and they are represented as action, interaction, and transaction.
Can you explain the three models of human communication?
Sure. Action is a one-way process. Interaction is a two-way process, and it adds elements of feedback and content. And transaction is both people in conversation working as sources and receivers. Are there any further questions? Well, thank you for your time. Please share area, and this concludes my briefing.